How's it going, everybody? My name is Bo, and I'm a home theater and movie enthusiast, and this is the fifth and final part of my video series where I'm building a replica of an SVS PB-3000 subwoofer. Now, if you watch part 4, which I'll put a card up in the corner, I discussed how that was supposed to be the final part, but I just had too much footage and kind of had to cut it abruptly in the middle. So this video is just going to pick up right where that left off. So again, if you haven't watched that, go watch that first. But yeah, I just had too much footage. It was too long of a video, and I didn't want to have like an hour-long video for people to have to sit through. So if you're enjoying this series, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, and without any further ado, let's get right into it. So we're in the garage, and I'm put the first coat around the outer edge, let that dry for 10-15 minutes, and then do a second coat covering the whole thing. I got the heater turned on just to help it dry. It says wait 10 minutes and you can wet sand. Still seeing some texture. You can still see the line. I didn't want to go super thick on the first coat, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm not expecting it to be like flawless. It's the back of the sub, ain't ever gonna see it, but yeah, we'll see. After the second coat, maybe I'll do a third. I actually have some sander primer I'll probably do the third coat with, but we'll come back when that's all done. So I did 2 coats around the edge with the filler primer, and then 1 light coat and the rest with the filler. Then I just did a light coat around the edge with the sandable filler primer, and then I did like a heavy coat across. I gotta say, I still can see like the edges. You can still see like the corner. Once it dries and is flat, I think it'll hide it to the eye, but obviously if it's there when it's wet, it means it's still there. So I don't know. That took a lot of that can, but we'll see. Once it dries, maybe I'll sand the whole thing down and give it one last coat. I'm not sure. I still haven't decided fully on the top coat finish, if I'm going to try to achieve a smooth finish with the roll-on paint or not, but we'll come back when this is all said and done, and I might even sand the sides and bottom and get those primed as well, since it's nicer out, a little bit warmer out today. So we'll see when that's all done, and I'll let you know how it turned out. Well, I went full send it since the last clip. I now have the front with 2 coats. I sanded the top, sides, and bottom. This is the bottom right here. And I got 2 coats on everything but the top, because I got a quick coat on the top, let it dry. I'm not worried if it wasn't fully dried, I can just sand it down, but I want to do a test with the bottom since it's never going to be seen. So I put thick 2 coats on the lip and on the sides. And then I did a wet sand, and then I dried it, and then put another thick coat on the edges, and then I took the 2-in-1 sandable primer filler and I did a heavy coat. I'm letting that dry right now, and I'm gonna wet sand that, see how it looks, and then I'm going to spray it with the color match spray paint and just see how that turns out, and then we'll go from there. And here we are back in the basement. I got the bottom painted with 2 coats of the color match low luster, and this isn't you know, an exact match, but since it's the bottom, I'm not too concerned. I mean, it'd be awesome if it was like a perfect match. Then I would paint the subwoofer this way, even though it'd be like probably $120 to get 3 cans. Maybe not that much, maybe like 110 maybe. With shipping to get 3 cans, that would probably be enough, maybe 2. But either way, this is low luster paint, but if I get the angle just right, you can still see the seam. Now, I wasn't as thorough sanding the bottom as I was the top, but it is a little worrisome that even with all that prep with sanding and the filler primer, you know, you still see the line because it is just raised up just ever so slightly. But we'll see how the top goes because I did put more time into the sanding. Wasn't as worried about the bottom. So for now, got some thread inserts to go into these 4 holes, which are right here. I've already sanded and painted them the same color, and basically it's just like a very coarse thread, which I'm going to put some Gorilla Glue. Not a ton because it does expand, but just to help lock it into position. And then these are the 1/4 threaded rubber feet that are going to go on the bottom. So yeah, I'm going to get these in, but first what I did was I used this scrap piece of wood to do a bunch of tests on the hole size and the depth, and then the countersink depth. And you can see that one I glued in. It's a little bit too deep, but this was the winner. And I just used, once I set the depth on here and I, you know, screwed one of those in, I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. So then I set the depth on my drill press so that it would stop the same for every one. And so I did that on the bottom board before I glued the subwoofer together. So yeah, I'm gonna set the camera up, put a little glue on these, and screw them in. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is put some glue on this plastic bag. I'm gonna use a toothpick to apply it to the actual thread insert. So I'm just gonna put some on here. Not gonna go crazy with it. And I'll just go through these quickly. I will time lapse or just jump to the installation. All right, got the camera positioned over the first hole. Set the insert in there. Just got a impact driver, just gonna go slow. There we go. Move on to the next one. Same process. There, that looks pretty good. I'll do the other 2, and I'm gonna let it sit overnight to let that glue fully cure. Then I'll put the feet on and flip her over. And we're back. And it's been a few days since I put in those threaded inserts. I have sanded the bottom with 180 grit, and I'm going to roll on the first coat. I did a test with this, basically my test router piece. Now, I put a second coat on. It's still a little bit wet, but yeah, it goes on relatively smooth as long as I do a light coat, don't go too heavy. So yeah, I'm going to start with the bottom, hopefully work out the kinks. I'm going to do light coats, do some sanding in between, light sanding, and once I'm happy with the bottom, then I'll put the feet on, flip it over so I have access to the rest of the subwoofer. I might do the front next, actually. I got to work out if I want to try to do a brush, you know, and get into, you know, the in-between areas. I can't remember exactly what I did on the first sub. I just know I had some blemishes, and yeah, I was never fully happy with the finish. So yeah, I'm not gonna show anymore. I've been editing the footage, but I think I'm just gonna go on with the paint, you know, and come back when I have possibly the whole thing painted, unless I run into a problem or something. And then, yeah, I'm gonna let it dry probably maybe a week or so, and then spray it with a matte clear coat. So we'll see what I come back with, but when I do, you'll be the first to know. All right, it's been about 5 or 6 days since that last clip, and I have 3 coats of paint on the subwoofer, and it went really smoothly, no pun intended. And I'm at a bit of a impasse because on my sample piece, this is 3 coats, just the paint, and then this is 3 coats plus 3 coats of matte clear, and I'm not really feeling that glossy look. I don't know. I kind of just like this flat look, and it does hide. There's a few blemishes which, you know, the glossy is going to bring out. One of the ones I noticed just now when I was inspecting is this. You can see the line from where I routered, and I wish I hadn't routered that little line in. I somehow missed that. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. And then overall, the texture's a little bit better. Similar texture to that shot you saw a minute ago from the first sub, but I don't have any like weird lines or any blemishes. Also, you can see how much different the so-called perfect color match spray paint is from the actual sub. I mean, it does have a matte clear, so I mean, it would be more fair to compare this, but I mean, it's not even close. Like, not even close, but the woofer's gonna hide that for the most part. I ain't worried about an 1/8 inch that you might be able to tell there's a different color in there. But yeah, it looks really nice as is with the two-tone. I got one little spot to touch up right there. Just get a little tiny paintbrush in there, like a little arts and crafts brush, just to fill that in. But other than that, I mean, this thing's done. I mean, till I decide if I'm going to put the matte clear on there, I can use it. The only issue is SVS will not sell me the wire harness to plug into the back of the amp board. And on one hand, I understand they're a subwoofer manufacturer. They're not subwoofer components, but I mean, a wire harness. But let me grab the amp board real quick, and I'll show you where the wire harness plugs in and talk a little bit about that. All right, here's the amp board, and that is where the wire harness plugs in. And 2 are for the positive red wire, and 2 are for the black negative. And yeah, I've scoured the internet. I cannot find a 4-pin connector, and then it has to clasp, you know, on that side. Actually, I found one, and I'll show you right now, but it's out of stock on this science whatever website, and it's not going to be in everything in their wiring section is all out of stock, and it's been out of stock. So I'm just going to have to pull the wire harness out of the first subwoofer. I was hoping to run dual and see how that worked. It wasn't going to be ideal, but I was going to try it. Now that option's off the table. Like, what am I supposed to do with the other subwoofer now? I'm going to have to figure out something, and some way or another I'm going to have to get a wire set up that works, because I'm not going to just have, you know, a box, a woofer, and an amp board that I can't do anything with other than as backups. But anyway, I'm going to get the components in probably next weekend, and yeah, test it out, and you know, go from there. But all right, we'll see you when that's done, and then I'll give my final thoughts at the end. And I got an update, but the subwoofer is not put together like I said I was going to do. And honestly, it's been about 2 weeks. I just really can't decide on on the finish. Well, I definitely wasn't going to do this. So what I did was I taped off this side and I taped off that, and I did a really light coat of the matte clear finish. And I kind of like it. It makes it just a slightly darker tone, but you know, at that angle it doesn't make much difference, but you can definitely see it just adds a little bit more reflective quality to the finish. So I've decided I'm just going to leave it with the raw paint. That's what I did on my first build, and I used this Behr Ultra Scuff Defense flat paint. I've used this on several projects now, the entire theater room wall, up the stairs, one of my rooms, and a spare room, and it's very durable. So with that decision made, I have kind of started making a wire harness. I think I found a connector that's going to work. At least the spacing of the pins on the website matches the pin spacing on the amp board, but yeah, that I don't even know if it's a legit site, so we'll see if that shows up. But yeah, what I did was I had some 16 gauge in-wall wire, which, you know, had a one red and one black line in like a kind of stiff plastic sleeve, like a gray plastic sleeve. So I pulled the wire out of that, and I cut it in half, and then I twisted up the ends. This is 16 gauge, like I said, so I don't know what that equates to, two 16 gauges. I don't know, it kind of looks like 12 or 10 gauge to me, but anyway, I bought 3 of the connectors because I'm going to do some tests. I'm hoping to pop the pins out of the plastic connector and take the metal and try to get it off the 18 gauge wire that the connector comes on, and hopefully be able to reattach it to the ends of these cables, and then probably, like I did shrink tube here, but I might just wrap it in some kind of foam like the original one from SVS. But while I wait for that, because that could be a couple weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wire harness out of the first build, which is that sub. I got the new one sitting here. I'm going to take the wire harness out of that and use it on this one with the new amp and the new woofer that I have. And then obviously use that one as potentially a forced sub once that connector comes, if it works. Haven't decided, but that's a video for another day. So what I'm going to do is, so I can move this better, is I'm going to take the woofer out first, and then, well, the amp board out first, then the woofer, and then get the wire harness, get this out of the way, and then swap out the wire harness and the rubber feet from this one onto this sub, and then get that into there, and then start breaking it in with some low-level listening. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'll set the camera up, just quickly show time lapse or something of getting the stuff out of that one, and then once I have the wire harness out, I'll talk about that. So we'll see you in a second. All right, with the sub pulled out, I'm going to take out the amp board first, tip it on its back, and then take the screws out for the woofer itself and see if I can get that out. All right, I'm going to insert another power cable into here to try to get some leverage to pry this thing out, because I'm having trouble. And now with the amp board off, I'm going to flip it on its back so I can pull off the woofer. Now let's see if I can get this driver out without destroying the edge of the wood around it. Wish me luck. I have no idea. I have no idea. All right, so I have no idea how I'm going to get this woofer out. to have to brainstorm it because I got nothing to grab onto. So I'll come back once I figure something out. After a quick thought, I think I'm just going to tip it, let it shift a little bit, and see if I can't get under one edge. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll try it. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much of that woofer removal showed up on camera, but while I got the new one sitting here, I'm going to show you some of the differences between this one and the first one I built. First off, I went way longer with the foam, and I had a board sitting on it for over 24 hours to let that glue cure. And as you can see on the original one, the pieces were shorter, and when I pulled the Woofer magnet out, they were all coming up. You know, the glue had given away. But the biggest thing is, if you look here, I got a nice smooth transition radius going down into the ports. And on the original build, you can clearly see a lip there. On this side's worse. It's probably an 1/8 inch, and also the radius isn't as what do you want to say, long, because this is only the 1/2 inch plus a 1/4 inch. It's basically 3/4 inch thick, and then it butts up to the port tube. And also a couple other things to compare. These are the rubber feet I ordered myself. It's actual raw rubber on metal, and then it came to a point, so I cut the tips off just so it wasn't like a sharp point. And then the ones from SVS are like a neoprene. It's like plastic. I believe this thread feels plastic. You know, there's really not a functional difference, but this rubber would leave a black mark on light carpet, and I didn't get the ends cut very clean. And then here's a look at the wire harness, the connector. I really hope the ones I ordered are going to work. I don't know if they're going to have that locking mechanism on there. And then now that I see this foam, it ain't very thick. I'm guessing it's just for vibration over the wood bracket, the magnet support. And then I just soldered on some, I think it's 10 gauge. It's aluminum with copper core, but either way, it's going in the new woofer, and yeah, we'll come back when that's done. And here's a look at the finished subwoofer in place, and I'll do a demonstration here in a little bit, but I just wanted to show the final product. It looks very similar to the first one, but like I showed in the previous clips where I was comparing some of the differences. But most importantly, I know it's built better. I know there's an extra support, there's more surface area for the glue, and the finish is nicer. And so far, sounds really clean. Now it's probably just placebo effect, but I swear my couch is rumbling a little bit more, but that's probably totally just placebo effect. But next, I'll just show a little demo, Dune Part 2, sandworm scene. You can see some woofer in action, and then I'll sit down and I'll just give my final thoughts on how it turned out and kind of recap everything that it did and what's next. Well, before I sit down to wrap up this video, I do want to show a little progress update on the original subwoofer I built. The main thing was that I filed down that really significant lip. Now there's some light hitting it, makes it look a little bit worse than it is, but it's significantly improved over what it was, and then I sanded down and repainted all this. I also sanded down the whole subwoofer quite a bit with 180 grit, and then I put 2 coats of paint back on it, and I used the can I used for the new sub, so now they match perfectly, and then it's a way better finish. Got rid of that thicker texture, and there was like a weird line here, and there was a bunch of blemishes, so that I'm very happy with. And I'm probably going to try to run the 2 subs in the back, but in order to do that I needed a connector for the wire harness. So here is the completed harness. I think it's going to be long enough. It might be a little shorter than I wanted, but it's definitely going to be long enough. It's just, is it going to be a little tight to get everything, get the connector in, and then get the amp board in. So anyway, just to quickly cover it, here's the finished connector. It looks a little ugly. I actually glued this piece on to have something to clasp to that little lip there. I'm going to put some caulk just to kind of hold it in place, because all these other screws have like a wax kind of thing on them. A lot of the connectors have this green. I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, the connector I bought was basically this, and I popped out the wires and got the connector pried off the wire, and then I reattached them to the 16 gauge wire. Use a little solder, you can kind of see through there. So it's a little ugly, but it's going to do the job, and I'm actually going to install the woofer and amp board, right after I film this. I also have a backup plan. This is the 18 gauge wire. I just popped out the reds, 2 of the reds from the other connectors and 2 of the greens, and painted them black in case I want to maybe lengthen this. I can just cut this off, and then I'll just use some shrink tube soldering connectors that have solder in the middle. It's a really secure connection. I might, depending on how I feel about this, and then yeah, that's going to be that. And we'll just go from here to go have a seat on the couch and kind of give my final thoughts, wrap up the entire project, and give the final cost and all that. So we'll see you in a second. All right, well, it's finally time to sit down and kind of give my final thoughts, wrap up this project, and discuss, some of the costs. And I wanted to start off by just reiterating why I decided to build these subs, why I decided to build replicas of the PB-3000 from SVS. It's simple. I had 2 amps and 2 woofers from a SB-3000 because SVS sent them to me as a replacement for my 2 sealed subs that had a slight whistling, buzzing sound anytime the amps were active during quiet scenes in movies. And I told them what the issue was. I didn't expect much, but they sent me 2 brand new woofers and amps and told me to throw the old ones away in accordance to state regulations where I live. I looked at that email probably 10 times. I'm like, they really want me to throw these away? I thought they were going to have me send them back. I mean, it would be hundreds of dollars probably shipping, but at least $120 to ship all that. But they wanted me to throw them away, so I wasn't going to do that. And I was like, what can I do with these? Can I make some what do you call them, butt kickers? Should I try something like that? And then I was just like, you know what? I haven't built anything in a while. I like building things. I got, I got a router, I got a table saw, I got, tools. And so I said, let me try to build one. So that's what I did back in March of 2024. Took me just about a month, and I spent like $550 on all the materials, all the tools to end up with a subwoofer. And I had leftover materials. I had all the tools, some of which I don't know if I'll ever use for anything else. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to build another one. You know, I got the amp and the woofer. I'm just going to do it. But I wasn't looking forward to it. So I waited about 6-7 months, and on early October, I think the 4th or 5th of October, I bought the wood. 3 months later, I had another subwoofer done. So that's what this video has been. I didn't start from the beginning with the video. I was already fairly, you know, I think is just about gluing stuff together by the time I made part 1. And ended up costing me about $220 in additional materials. Subtract 30 something of that if I didn't mess up 2 pieces and had to buy another 2x4 sheet of MDF. So it could have been cheaper, but I definitely improved upon the process. My table saw, I bought a new saw blade that made cutting MDF waste cleaner, and I squared up my blade to the saw. You know, like the base and the fence, and I just made way cleaner cuts, and you know, the pieces went together, you know, way tighter. And I also reinforced the port tube support. I went up and over on this one to add a little more rigidity to the cabinet, and I had more surface area to glue because my corner wedges were a little bit, you know, longer. And so it's definitely a better build. It went together better, and it's more secure. And so I know, you know, I'm not too worried about that first one either, but I know this one's just built that little bit better. And, you know, it sounds great. It's very clean. You saw the demo. There's no chuffing. There's no vibration. The cabinet's just not even, you know, makes no noise. It just puts out bass. And I'm very happy with that. And the total cost for the 2 subwoofer cabinets was about $770, I think, right around there, give or take, plus or minus $20. I don't have exact figures, but those are pretty close. So $770 to have 2 cabinets. And obviously, I saved 2 woofers and amp boards from going to the landfill. I'm sure SVS wouldn't be thrilled to find out. I kind of think they know I did that, because when I asked if I could buy some rubber feet and the wire harness, they were like, no. So I kind of feel like they knew that's what I was doing, but who cares? They told me to throw them away. I'm not going to throw them away. Yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of a hissing, buzzing sound. But because my couch is here, I actually don't hear it. I only heard it from the front too, because I direct ear to sight. And I solved that problem on the front ones by making acoustic panels in front of my subwoofers. So at the end of the day, I got 2 Replica SVS PB-3000 subwoofers for $770, and to buy 2 brand official ones is like $3,700. So worked out for me, and I'm glad I did it. It was a lot of time, and you know, it is what it is. You know, I don't know what else I would have done. I wasn't going to sell them, so I ended up spending money. But at the end of the day, I got massively improved bass for, you know, a fraction of the cost, like a fifth of the cost, if you really think about it. So, yeah, so that's going to be it. Appreciate everybody who's watched this video series. I don't know about the future. You know, I'm going to maybe make a video about running the original sub, which will be the 4th sub in this room, and getting all that done. Other than that, I don't have any plans for upgrades for many years. So I am going to do some other videos, just kind of some opinion topic videos. I got a couple in mind, and but with that, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you for sticking with me. If you're new, you know, go back, watch some of my older home theater content. Give me a like, give me a comment, and we'll see you on the next video.